Reselling to some people is the dream side hustle. Buy low, sell high, pocket the profit. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. They paint it as freedom, independence, easy money. You see people flaunting their latest flip on YouTube, counting stacks of cash, showing off their latest designer bag or rare collectible. It looks glamorous. It looks attainable. But behind the glossy posts, there's a dark underbelly, a world of scams, cons, shady deals, greed, and collateral damage to both communities and individuals. In the next few minutes, I'm going to take a deep dive into the shadows of reselling. You'll meet the habits that ruin lives, scams that keep evolving, and the social cost that the reselling platforms don't want to talk about. If you've ever considered reselling for a hobby or a living, or if you buy from online marketplaces, this video matters. Understanding the pitfalls of reselling could save you time, money, protect your reputation, and even preserve your sanity. Whether you like it or not, this is the dark side of reselling. It begins innocently enough, just a harmless flip, until the numbers start to whisper louder than your conscience. You learn the mantra, buy under, sell over. Simple, clear, harmless. You spot an undervalued computer game in a box of junk, a vintage jacket tucked away in a thrift store, or a collectible toy at a garage sale. You see the opportunity to turn it into profit. And for a while, it works. You're thrilled with your first successful sale, encouraged by the adrenaline, the profit, and the sense that you're part of a privileged insider world. But slowly, that mindset begins to slip, or should I say, become blinkered. That innocent principle of buy low, sell high can slowly mutate into exaggeration and something darker. In pursuit of your profit, you start stretching the truth. You list something as excellent condition when the wear is obvious. You call something vintage when it's modern. You claim an item is authentic when you know full well it's a replica. Each exaggeration feels small, justified, harmless, even smart. But reselling culture has a way of normalising deception. One fib here, one tiny ethical compromise there, and suddenly your default mode is distortion. What started as a stretch of the truth soon becomes a habit, and habits have a way of owning you. The danger isn't the deception itself, it's how quickly the lie becomes routine, a built-in cost of doing business. At first, the deception feels harmless, and the profits seem to justify them. But each exaggeration and successful sale can tempt you to spend, borrow, and scale faster than you can actually afford. The debts pile up. Credit cards groan, and you convince yourself that the economy of scale will eventually triumph, but it won't. One account suspension, one wave of refunds, one bad batch, and it all collapses. The house of cards falls, taking your peace of mind with it. To quote a wise man, the thrill of scale can be intoxicating. Credit cards maxed, borrowed money piling up interest, warehouses or storerooms stacked with inventory, your death pile growing day by day. You tell yourself the next batch will cover the last. You convince yourself that with more volume, the profit will justify the risk. Like a failed gambler, you start chasing your losses. Stress builds up. Nights are sleepless. Anxiety becomes a constant companion. Greed is now fueling your mindset, and you leave yourself wide open to the guru trap. The so-called reseller guru culture thrives on it. You see them on YouTube and TikTok, promising miraculous returns for a monthly channel membership or a paid course. You see it everywhere. Turn £500 into £5,000 in 30 days. They promise flashy cars, exotic holidays, and brand name products, while carefully hiding the transaction disputes, chargebacks, broken items, and all-nighters that make their narrative and claims possible. So, you can see the reality of these claims is far less glamorous. The razor's edge of high-risk flipping is real, and it cuts deep. Mastermind and guru cons are just another layer of the dark side of reselling. There are endless courses, VIP groups, and exclusive supplier databases sold to aspiring resellers. Members pay hundreds or even thousands of pounds expecting quick fix insider secrets. But often, the leads supplied by the guru are old, copied, recycled, or never even existed. The real revenue for the reseller gurus comes from recruiting more buyers, not flipping products. And then something else shifts: empathy. When your mental profit calculator is always running, people start to become numbers. Buyers, suppliers, collaborators. They just become lines on a spreadsheet. You start to rationalise red flags. Ethics slip quietly. One shady source, one small misrepresentation, one step too far. What would have been fraud for someone else suddenly becomes a necessary, justified shortcut in your world. It sounds dramatic, but this is the slippery slope. As a dealer myself, I've witnessed it numerous times, from ambitious side hustle to ethical compromise, reputation erosion and potential ruin. It's here that the transformation happens. Fraud stops looking like fraud. It becomes strategy. In my opinion, this is the turning point, where reselling stops being a healthy business and becomes a dark obsession. But this mindset, while destructive and toxic, is just the beginning. The real dangers emerge when you step into the labyrinthine ecosystem of scams. Reselling is littered with scammers and scams, some centuries old, some painfully modern. Phantom listings, items that never existed, and sellers that vanish overnight. Counterfeits, replicas so convincing they fool the experts and fund organised crime in the process. Hijacked accounts, trusted sellers turned into bait by hackers. Refund scams, fake overpayments that drain your balance before you even realise it. Every one of these plays on trust and destroys it. Take phantom listings, for example. This simple scam has been around since the earliest days of online marketplaces, and it's brutal. A seller posts a rare console, a designer handbag, or a limited edition collectible. The images are crisp, the description tempting. As the buyer, you pay the asking price. The problem is, the item never existed, and the seller disappears from the face of the earth. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, they are crawling with these scams. Recovery is slow, often partial, and sometimes impossible. Victims often report the psychological damage of being scammed, feeling embarrassed or naive for falling for such a simple scam. Counterfeits are another massive area for scams. Sneakers, handbags, watches, electronics. The list is endless. Some are poorly made, some are highly convincing, some even come with forged certificates, doctored serial numbers, or false provenance. Buyers think they've scored a deal, only to realise they've just funded organised crime. A consumer may believe they're getting a bargain. That's the whole idea. But all they've become is part of a global network of organised crime that profits from deception. To back this up, counterfeit watches alone have been linked to transnational crime syndicates laundering millions annually. As if counterfeits and phantom items weren't enough, account hijacks and impersonation takes this one step further. Hackers gain control of trusted sellers' accounts. They list dozens of items, deliver nothing, and then vanish. Buyers trust the account's history, only to get burned. Impersonators create near identical usernames, mimicking reputable sellers, and siphon away customers, often before anyone notices. It's a quiet theft, but the damage is immense. For a high-volume reseller, an account hijack can wipe out weeks of work and hundreds of dollars in inventory. The worst-case scenario is it can totally destroy a business. Then there's the overpayment or refund back scam. A buyer accidentally overpays and asks you to refund the difference using a separate payment method. The original payment is, of course, fake, reversed, or never existed. You send real money back. Once again, they vanish. It's simple, effective, and scarily common. Stories abound on forums of resellers losing thousands in a single day due to this refund scam. And the worst part is that recovery is often impossible once it's done. Return fraud, also known as wardrobing, is another common and silent killer. Expensive clothing or electronics are purchased, used once and returned, claiming damage or that the buyer has simply changed their mind. Some buyers even send back fakes or bricks in the original packaging to circumvent online platform return policies. For resellers operating at scale, the loss from returns and reverse postage payments can destroy profit margins overnight. In large marketplaces, it's estimated that 3 to 5% of returns may involve some level of fraud, which sounds small until you scale inventory in the hundreds of thousands. Bot scalping is also a modern plague. When limited edition sneakers, consoles or collectibles are released, bots scoop them up in milliseconds. Real fans never get a chance. These unscrupulous resellers then relist the same items at 2 to 5 times retail cost. Brands like Nike and Adidas spend millions deploying anti-bot measures. Yet frustration spreads. Consumers feel cheated. Marketplaces look incompetent and resentment towards resellers grows. Bots also encourage artificial scarcity, distorting supply, demand curves, and pushing regular buyers away, possibly permanently. The newest, most dangerous scam isn't a one-off trick. It's a long game operation. Scammers spend weeks or months building trust, promising secret deals, insider tips, or quick investment flips. Then, suddenly, victims' money disappears. This is what's called, believe it or not, pig butchering. It's getting so big that the US Treasury has stepped in against these scams, shining a light on just how deep and organised they are. They have targeted the companies and networks that support them. For example, they've sanctioned businesses that provide the digital infrastructure, web hosting, domains, and the software that scammers use to make their schemes look real. They've also gone after transnational networks that run these operations, including moving funds through offshore accounts to hide their trail using sophisticated digital tricks to deceive unsuspecting victims. And some of them even exploit forced labour to keep the scams going. In total, on a worldwide scale, victims have lost hundreds of millions of pounds. These actions show that the problem isn't just online trickery, it's an international system built to drain people's savings, and authorities are actively trying to shut it down. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, wash trading and fake reviews are also rampant online. Colluding accounts create the illusion of hype, tricking people into buying while they inflate prices and mislead the innocent consumer. It has to be said, unfortunately, that these long game scams exploit both greed and naivety in equal measure. I guess, to coin a phrase, buyer beware. Policy abuse compounds the problem. False disputes, fake chargebacks, buyer manipulation. It's the silent rot eating the online marketplaces from within. Dishonest, high-volume sellers flood support teams. Honest sellers get crushed by policy loopholes. Platforms quietly admit the top 1% of sellers generate most complaints. Makes you wonder if they have a dark agenda or if it's purely a customer support economy of scale. However, there is talk that these dodgy resellers exploit platform protections, repeated disputes, false return claims, chargebacks, manipulation, squeezing honest sellers and creating friction on marketplaces. Trust erodes, frustration builds, and ultimately everyone loses, creating systemic stress in the ecosystem at the very top of the reselling food chain. Unfortunately, behind every healthy success story, there's someone burning out, mentally, financially, or emotionally, as well as stress, insomnia, and guilt. It's true that some resellers adapt and thrive, running legitimate businesses, while others can and do embrace the dark side, rationalising the rot, convincing themselves that cheating is just part of the game. The examples are everywhere for you to see. Fake AirPods flooding Facebook Marketplace, bot armies cornering sneaker drops, pallet scams draining savings, romance-style scams preying on lonely or trusting sellers and buyers. This isn't the fringe anymore. It's the infrastructure of the internet's grey market, and the social cost is staggering. The creation of artificial scarcity is another big problem. PlayStations, Jordan trainers, concert tickets. Resellers are known to buy out stock and relist all at outrageous prices. Think of the recent scandals around Oasis reunion tickets being sold on secondary markets for extortionate prices. Consumers feel cheated. Brands are blamed. Platforms impose complicated limits to try to restore fairness, but somehow the scammers find a way around the firewalls. Once a few big resellers manage to pull ahead, the market quickly consolidates in their favour. Those with capital, bots, and automation dominate, while smaller sellers struggle to survive. Niche variety disappears, leaving only a handful of players in control. In the eyes of the consumer, trust begins to crumble. Every scam, counterfeit, or shady flip chips away at confidence across the entire market. And buyers start to generalise. Resellers are dodgy, shady, or at worst, even corrupt. Of course, the pressure falls hardest on legitimate sellers. Constant stress from fraud, returns, cash flow issues, and logistics leads to anxiety, sleepless nights, strained relationships, and even debt. Burnout can become the norm. Some quit entirely, others keep going, trapped in relentless stress. Along the way, for some resellers, bending the rules becomes normalised. Small exaggerations can snowball into larger frauds, and ethical compromise spreads through the culture. And I'm afraid that some unscrupulous resellers rationalise deception as just part of the game, perpetuating a cycle that erodes trust and damages the entire market. And I can point to real stories to illustrate the point. For example, in the UK, a seller moved thousands of fake AirPods and designer bags via Facebook Marketplace. Buyers believed they had legitimate bargains. In reality, they were funding organised crime and ended up with worthless counterfeits. In the US, automated bot networks snap up hundreds, if not thousands, of pairs of limited edition sneakers the instant they're released online. These bots are run by organised resellers who use software to bypass waiting queues and checkout limits. Brands like Nike and Adidas have poured millions into anti-bot systems to stop them. Yet ordinary buyers still find themselves locked out, unable to buy even a single pair at retail price. Pallet scams are equally insidious. Resellers pay thousands for Amazon return pallets, expecting treasure. A good percentage will contain nothing but broken microwaves, damaged electronics, or used clothing. Rarely does anything of great value appear in these pallets, as they've been mined for the best stock before they're made available to resellers. Some companies even operate purely on moving junk, while hopeful resellers gamble on hitting a rare gem. Good luck with that then. A really sad scam that targets resellers is the romance-style scams. While not promising a relationship, a seemingly legitimate contact builds trust over months, promising exclusive stock deals and preying on the innocence and naivety of the victim. It's true that small returns may appear initially. At that point, a larger investment is requested by the now trusted, almost friendly scammer. Once transferred, the contact disappears into thin air, leaving the victim financially devastated. One reported case saw nearly £1 million lost to this scam. Another really sad scam that preys on the innocent are fraud factories. Often linked to human trafficking in Southeast Asia, they operate as multi-floor scam centres. Individuals are often coerced into catfishing victims or managing fraudulent accounts. One whistleblower video showed attractive models used to lure victims globally, while staff operated under duress. These extreme examples highlight how deep and complex the fraud factory ecosystem has become. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. So how do you protect yourself from the dark side of reselling? Well, recognising warning signals is essential. For example, prices drastically below market value, overly polished guru personas, refusal of PayPal or credit card payment, pressure to join exclusive groups, lack of documentation or requests for sketchy refunds are all red flags. Relationship building before financial requests and manipulation of platform policies also signal danger. Defensive measures can and do exist. Use buyer and seller protections. Delay shipping until funds clear. Request serial numbers or proof of ownership. Use authentication services. Reverse image searches. Maintain strict return policies and report fraud to authorities like the FTC, IC3 and UK trading standards. I trust my instinct. If it feels too good to be true, it probably is. Having said that, I'm pretty long in the tooth now and have seen most, if not all of it. So I do appreciate how less experienced resellers can fall victim. Unfortunately, the dark side of reselling isn't slowing down. If anything, it's mutating. It's like the evil in Stranger Things, growing silently beneath the surface, feeding off greed, naivety and innocence. As you watch this video, AI-generated deepfake product videos, crypto-only bargains and complex social engineering scams are multiplying faster than online platforms can react. We have to be aware of this. And when you type "I've been scammed" into YouTube, you see the same story again and again. Good people, hard-working people, people just trying to build something for themselves have lost everything because they trusted and clicked on the wrong link, replied to the wrong message, or believed the wrong promise. The sad truth is, as I've said, scammers evolve faster than systems do. Every fix, every new policy, every AI safeguard, they find a way around it. That's why the only real defense we have is each other. Sharing knowledge, staying vigilant, refusing to turn a blind eye. Because at the end of the day, awareness and honesty will only triumph if it's shared between people who actually care about keeping this trade clean. Here's what I believe. Real success, the kind that lasts, isn't built on hype, deception, or shortcuts. It's built on ethics, trust, and the kind of strategy that stands up when the smoke clears. That's the difference between a reseller and a scammer. One builds value, the other destroys it. So reselling, when it's done right, can be a great thing. It gives unwanted items a second life. It rewards curiosity, effort, and expertise. It creates connections, real ones, between buyer and seller, history and future. But if you ignore the darker forces creeping into this space, you'll pay the price. Not just in money, but in reputation, peace of mind, and self-respect. It's a sad fact that scammers are evolving faster than platforms. That's why our only real defense is each other. And I'm absolutely convinced the only way we clean up this space is by shining light into the shadows and exposing the dark side of reselling once and for all. So, if you've been through it, if you've had a reseller nightmare and experienced the dark side of reselling, tell your story in the comments below, because silence protects the scammers, truth exposes them. That's all I have to say for now. My name's Mark and this has been Antiques Central. Thanks for watching.